I'm John Martinez from John's Sporting Goods in Everett, Washington, and we're out in the Straits of Juan de Fuca today shrimping for spot shrimp. They're gigantic shrimp. We're going to show you some of them here in a little bit. But first, let's talk about the pots we're using. We're using the SMI octagon pot, which is the most efficient pot for catching these shrimp. And you can see how I have it rigged here, and I have it connected with a oval link here that cannot come undone. You do not use any snaps at this location, because if you do, you risk losing your pot from the snap coming undone. I know that sounds unlikely, but it actually happens quite often. Now we're going to load the bait into the pots. This bait consists of super bait pellets, mackerel, chub mackerels in here. I have some Procure shrimp and crab attractant in here, and I've mixed this up so it's about as thick as peanut butter. I have 2 tubes going in here, and actually one tube is mixed thinner than the other, so one of the tubes is mixed so that the scent trail goes out into the water immediately, and then the thicker tube is mixed up so the bait lasts at least for an hour. I'm going to soak these pots for 1 hour, and we're going to catch a bunch of prawns, but this bait's going to be half gone by the time we pull this pot up. We'll show you that here in a little bit. Once we have this tube, this is a 9-inch tube. The color really doesn't matter. This is an orange tube. They also come in green. And so this nice octagon pot will hold 2 of these tubes. And so I have one in here already. So I'm going to insert this tube right here. And then I'm going to lock this trap door shut so the bait doesn't escape. Like I said earlier, the bait's going to last for about 1 hour, about the time we're going to pull these pots. Attached to this pot is 400 feet of 5/16 leaded rope. We're going to be shrimping today in 300 feet of water, and once we let the pot out and we get to the other end of the rope, we're going to use these links here. Now notice this is a snap, but this snap is a locking snap, so it can't come undone. There's no fear of losing your pot or the rest of your gear from this snap coming undone. These buoys here, what I call the standard buoys, they're the ones that don't necessarily float the pot, they're just extra flotation. This pot weighs 30 pounds. I have 15 pounds of extra weight in it to get it up to that 30 pounds. Now, the other part of these buoys is attached to what I call the rescue buoy. This buoy right here will float 52 pounds. Now remember, the pot weighs 30, but also you have probably 6 or 8 pounds of bait in this pot, and you also have 12 pounds of rope. So in the event that your pot floats away from the current or any other reason, this buoy here is going to float the pot, and you're not going to lose your gear. Completely rigged, these pots cost, completely rigged with buoys and rope and all this gear, it costs probably close to $300, maybe a little bit more. So if your pot floats off or it goes down the ledge where we're shrimping, this buoy here is going to float all my equipment, and I'm not going to lose anything. This is where people try to scrimp when they're putting shrimp pot gear together, and this is not the place to try to cut corners. The current's running pretty hard today out here in the Straits of Juan de Fuca. There's about 6 foot of tidal exchange, so I'm going to attach a 1.5-pound anchor with approximately 8 feet of line here. When this goes to the bottom, this little anchor right here will keep my shrimp pot in one place so that it doesn't float away. I don't want this pot floating out past 300 feet of water, and this is going to keep my pot in place. Now, I don't always use these anchors. If the tide is not running very hard, let's say we're close to the tide change and I was throwing these pots out, I wouldn't put this anchor on my pot. Okay, now I'm getting ready to put this shrimp pot in the water, and I'm going to dangle my anchor over to the side to start with. And we can just gently let this pot over to the side and to the bottom. Now I'm just going to feed this rope out until I have all 400 feet into the water, and then right when I get to the end of this rope, we're going to attach that buoy setup that I showed you earlier. Today we're going to be pulling shrimp pots with the Ace line hauler. This is the Brutus Max Torque. This is a very powerful shrimp pot puller, crab pot puller, and it's what you need to be going out in the Straits of Juan de Fuca or Puget Sound to pull shrimp pots or crab pots. Now, attached to this is what's called a bulldog. This unit right here, and it's a self-coiling device. And what we'll show you here in a little while is when I get the rope rigged up, and around here, the rope is going to come underneath here, and that rope is going to coil into my bucket just perfectly. As you can see on this Ace line hauler, I have the extended boom. This boom is about 6 inches longer than the standard boom. So when my shrimp pots come up and they get near the boat, they're not going to be bumping against the side of the boat, scraping the paint off my boat. This is definitely something that you need when you buy an Ace line hauler. You can see why we put that rescue buoy on the buoys here. See the current running off that buoy? I'm going to show you another one in a minute with the regular buoys underwater. Okay, you can see the Ace line hauler in operation. It comes up with ease. We're pulling these pots up from 300 feet of water, and I'm putting a little bit of tension on this bulldog just because there's a lot of current right now. Just giving a little helping hand, adding a little bit of extra tension, and so this pot will be up here in about 3 minutes. Okay, here comes a load of spot shrimp. Oh yeah, that's a good pot right there. Look at that. There's 50 or 60 spot prawns in this trap here. Now look at the size of those things. Let me get one out and show it to you. These shrimp are gigantic, and that's pretty much what you get out here in the Straits of Juan de Fuca. The limit is 80 shrimp a day, and there's no size limit, so once you get 80, then you're done. Okay, here we go. Here's a pot with maybe 50 or 60 spot prawns in it. This is a pretty good haul. We're going to be done here. We're going to pull one more pot, and we have our 160 shrimp.